Alright, what's going on everybody? Anime Rainbow back with another episode. Today I will be discussing Kaiju number 8, chapter 58. What is going on? Well, if you remember where we left off from the last chapter, the anti-Kaiju number 9 attack defense force had finally been assembled in order to try to stop this thing before it makes its next move, right? So keep in mind, this is a briefing that has been held by Defense Force Base 3, with the Vice Captain leading most of the time, telling everything that they have learned from Kaiju number 9 and his interaction with it. So the info goes like this. Keep in mind, I've touched on most of these topics before. The first thing is that Kaiju number 9 has been around much longer than originally thought, right? With the yearly numbers of Kaiju rising and the average fortitude rising from 2.9 to 4.8, it's theorized that number 9 is responsible for all of this. Now, I do have to mention that there is a natural component to Kaiju emergence. Apparently, there is something that has been going on in the early fault lines since, I'm guessing, the dawn of time, or at least since human civilization. The fault lines contributes to the fortitude that the Kaijus have in the natural process of them becoming a Kaiju. So, are there any more steps that may contribute to this? Yes. Does the Defense Force know? No. Is Kaiju number 10 holding back this information? Possibly, right? He might not tell everything that he knows due to the fact that it's possible that, these soldiers might not hold up to their end of the bargain with making him into a Kaiju weapon and using him. That's something that the Defense Force even talks about. That's something I'm assuming Kaiju number 10 has thought about. What if they don't hold up their end of the bargain? From everything that has been told from Kaiju number 10, it has been verified at some point in time, right? I think it was the leader of Defense Force Base 4, right? That captain. He was like, well, what if he's lying? Well, it's possible, but from what he's saying, everything that we've seen falls in line with what he is telling us. Yeah, it's possible he's lying, but the fortitude, the yearly average has risen from 2.9 to 4.8. Ever since Kaiju number 9 has really been making an appearance, it's skyrocketed even more, and this tells us that, hey, their fortitude rising, the yearly number of daily appearances might not have been natural to begin with. Here's where I have a problem with this theory, alright? Even though I explained that, even though I long-winded all of that, I still have problems with it. So in order for number 9 to be responsible for what the Vice Captain Hoshina is saying to be true, number 9 would have had to have been alive since the beginning of Kaiju emergences. Maybe not necessarily the beginning, but if you think of a character like Vandal Savage from DC Comics, he hasn't been alive since the dawn of humanity, but it's close enough, right? Like, it's close enough. He was a Homo sapien, he was a caveman, however you want to look at him. He was that, and he was granted immortality, and he's just been living and fucking shit up in the human world ever since. So naturally, this is something that the Defense Force wants to take care of immediately, right? They've set up these perimeters, or they're going to set up these perimeters in order to try to scour the ocean and the lands in order to try to find where it is that Kaiju number 9 is currently. Right now, they don't know. We, the readers, we do know he's at the bottom of one of the trenches, and I actually think that they do have hints to knowing that he's at one of these locations because of the natural fault lines that run throughout all of the Earth. Keep in mind that in Kaiju number 8, they are set on just Earth. Alright, it's not some distant planet or their own made-up planet, so human rules apply to these characters in this series. So they're scouring the ocean, but I mean, it's a lot of fucking ocean. They're not going to be able to do this in a day. They're realistically not even going to be able to do this in their lifetime, just because of the technology that we have available currently in our present world. They can't just drop something and be like, oh yeah, he's at this part, so it's going to take some time. Nonetheless, it's still not the biggest issue that they have to overcome. What comes from this leads to the biggest problem and the biggest revelation that we got this chapter. Something that I've touched on before in the past, just because of the way this series was panning out. Any body, right, and I don't mean like a person, but any person's body that he, number 9 or number 10, any humanoid kaiju possesses, they instantly gain the knowledge of that person. Right, very common, but you have to think about how many people Kaiju number 9 has absorbed. Right, think back to the very first time he fought Kafka. He absorbed some scientist dude. Who was the scientist guy that he absorbed? And what was the knowledge that he possessed from that? And did that knowledge of the scientist guy lead to the overtake of Isao Shinomaya? Well, then he took over Isao Shinomaya, and he gained all of that information that he had built up over the decades of him being the strongest of the Defense Force. Right, they hyped this man up that much. He was the strongest the Defense Force has ever had in the history. I'm sure that comes with a lot of privilege of information. Then he was the Director General. He is directly in communication with government officials in order to help set up perimeters, in order to help establish safe houses, routes to the safe houses, pins and codes to safe houses, to the weapon storage, to the numbered weapon storage, direct lines to government officials, both domestic and foreign. Kaiju number 9 has all of that information at his disposal, and it's much more problematic than what was actually discussed this chapter. They need to change everything: pins, codes, procedures, so much in fact that they can't even run with the same procedures that they've had built up over those decades. So really what the problem has just arisen is that they need to now go renegade, right? They have to go rogue, basically guerrilla warfare, if we want to take it that far back in history. And they're relying entirely off of these new rookies, right? Reno, all of them. The Director General has no information on any of them, have no strategies on any of them. He never met them because they were all divided after the whole incident that had happened, right? Kafka was the only one. Kafka and Kikoru were the only ones that were brought over to the main facility. Reno and everybody else were sent off with the other first-year recruits. So really, they have all of the first-year recruits at their disposal, but they're really just focusing on the ones that Defense Force Base 3 had, because apparently they're the best, right? I don't know why the best wouldn't go to Defense Force Base 1, but we put all of the top recruits in Defense Force Base 3. At least that's what it's coming across. But they're really honing in on Reno in this situation. Now, why Reno? I've had discussions with Reno in the past, but he has apparently just excelled so far beyond everybody else in terms of his progression. Not necessarily where he started off, but where he's ending up, right? He's progressing incredibly fast. I've said this in previous videos. He has the progression that of a main character, right? And it's been recognized by Captain Mean and by Vice Captain Hoshina so much that they think that he is worthy, or one of the compatible users, the only compatible user to be able to link with the king of the kaijus, right? Dai Kaiju number 6, the one who fucked up everything, the greatest cataclysm that this world has ever known. That is who Reno is being geared up to. Now, that's pretty much it for the chapter. All Prevy information has been talked about. This is me about to ramble about why Reno is the son of Kaiju number 9, and really shouldn't get Kaiju number 6 as a weapons upgrade. I think all of that should be put on hold until you really have a grasp on these kaijus at this point, because that would have been my first thought. Someone who can take over kaijus, but it can also make kaijus. Possibly he has put something in place in order to fuck stuff from the inside out, but that's not what they're thinking, right? Reno's timing in the Defense Force is just absolutely perfect in relation to when Kaiju number 9's attacks start to really kick off, right? And as of right now, they really don't have a way to test for kaijus. I thought that would have been the first thing that you would have did the minute you found out that, okay, a humanoid kaiju impersonated himself as a human and joined the Defense Force. Maybe we should test everybody who has joined the Defense Force in the same time span that Kafka has, right? Just to test the water, to see what's going on. But we're gonna see how this plays out. Maybe Reno's a sleeper agent. He doesn't even know, so he's just going about his things until he hears a Red Sun situation go on. If you catch that reference, is from DC's Young Justice, another not Vandal Savage, it was a Lex Luthor reference, right? He put Superboy in the league with the Young Justice, and whenever he says Red Sun, it activates him. He forgets everything, and he's under the control of Lex Luthor for an X amount of time, and then he just sends him back to live life and be jolly with everybody of Young Justice and the other Teen Titans without him ever realizing. That could be a Reno situation right now, because he's just so convenient. He progresses so fast. He really doesn't have a goal other than to destroy kaiju. Average test scores not above, right? He stays low key, but the fact that he's able to be compatible with Kaiju number 6 should have people a little bit alarmed. But I've rambled on long enough. If you made it to the end, thank you. If you are new, go plus ultra and smash that subscribe button. Let me know you rock with the content that I put out on the channel. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Comment on the video your thoughts about what you think is going on, how you think it's going to progress, what you think Reno is, if I'm just talking out of my ass, or if you actually think that Reno could be setting them niggas up for some shit. And I will keep the content coming as frequent as possible. Have a good day.